Letting go is probably the hardest thing for most people on this planet to do for 1,001 reasons. So let's go around real quick and do a rapid fire on what is it that you just can't let go of right now, today, that's been a theme for more than a year.
Being right. Like I always want to be right.
Yeah.
So.
This is why I love her. Because she's just raw and real and ready to get down with the growth.
Just my frustration with folks who can do better and don't.
There you go. That's a version of what Sally said earlier, I think, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, wanting to hold them and cradle them versus, you know?
Yeah.
So that's that. That's a big theme, actually, with a lot of people, especially women.
I would say maybe it's okay to not control everything, I guess. That means it's okay that if things not go the way you thought, it's okay. You're gonna have the next day, I guess. It's like the perfection, maybe, of do everything as businesswoman, wife, etc., blah, 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 all the rest. And then sometimes things doesn't work. And then I put the pressure off that it's okay to not do everything perfectly because we're not a perfect human being, I guess. I think I have a list, but you asked for one that it just came. Yeah.
You're helping out all those that are still thinking.
I guess letting go of control and fear, because I feel like if I can control everything, then I can make sure nothing bad happens. And so that fear that something bad will happen. But when you look at it like I don't control nothing. And that's okay, and that feels good too. So like when it all falls apart, it's not on me either.
You can speak freely, and of course it's
Okay.
come out, it's just what it is.
All right. I guess, but yeah. So
We'll
that's
put
what
the
like
explicit
like
thing there. So
yeah,
right.
please, that'd be awesome. Yeah. So just control fear and just like you know.
Okay, the thing that keeps coming is just being good. So that's what I'm just going to put out there.
So go into what does that mean? Don't make any mistakes.
Yeah, don't make mistakes, like do things the right way. Just be like kind of like maybe there's some perfect in there, but just like being good. Yeah. Yeah.
So I need to work on letting go of my ego, which prevents me from leaning into certain things that I know would be good for me, but don't feel like they're like that. I have this ego of like, oh well, you can do better or whatever. That's not good enough. So it's not really letting go of not being good enough. It's just like letting go of my ego so I can just embrace everything that comes to me.
It's wonderful.
I need to let go of judgment.
Oh gosh,
Like-
Sorry.
You stole Celia's.
I'm not sure you know anymore.
But I tend to judge myself and judge others, I think, too harshly. And expectations. I need to let go of the expectations. I feel that I need my life to go a certain way, but I need to let that go and just let everything come.
It's beautiful.
Now we'll make hair awards mine.
Okay, so you're just doubling up on
Yes,
that?
exactly. Judgment, others, and myself.
Okay, that's perfect. So for me, I think I'm letting go of the fact that I don't have value. And I know that might sound so crazy. However, growing up, I think there were certain things that happened that when it was time to express or be, those weren't necessarily valued or it wasn't understood. And so a lot of that was shut down or shoved down and stopped. And so, yeah, letting go of that so that the world can get more of what I feel like I can offer, just like everybody has that gift of their own that people are waiting for, so that we can all wake up to that. Well, wait, I recognize that because it's in me too, and so now I have the freedom to be that which is free and just express. So the idea of letting go is huge, and there's so many different versions of it, right? So I had this conversation in passing one day after working on somebody, and it was pretty profound. Let me see if I can attempt to encapsulate it. If all of us are just these vessels that anything can be done with, that would be in alignment with the betterment of all of humanity, then if I was trying to control the way my vessel operated or went, then how could humanity truly benefit from that, right? And so in my opinion, there's no such thing as irony, and there's no such thing as coincidence. As a matter of fact, I think on a level of being politically correct is avoiding a conversation on some levels because people need it to look pretty and sound nice, but it's not really raw and real to the deal that we're dealing with. So if irony and coincidences are words that really make you question, oh, it's just ironic that happened, or it's a coincidence that we met here. No, that's not that at all. I think those words were almost invented as a way of distraction, or to get you off the beaten path from the reality of the flow of life working with you and helping you to support moving into that space of whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, being, meeting, growing with, etc. As a general theme of the universe is always wanting to support us. And so I don't think those words really, it's like guilt. I think the word guilt should be stricken from the human language of all languages out there because it's purposeless. And it's designed as a control mechanism. So the word control came up, and if we're all honest, all of us on some level like to control for different reasons of we don't want to have the worry of if this could happen, whereas in reality those ifs are actually opportunities and doors opens, or something stops here so you can get something better there, or there's a way to grow and this gets graduated from but you're not willing to let it go, so then the universe goes, well, we've been trying to communicate to you. We've sent messengers. We opened the book on the floor to that page that said it too. Somebody called you the other day, so forth and so on, so much so that the person's just headstrong and doesn't want to roll like that. Then the universe goes, we really don't want to do this. However, send them the car wreck, or send them the death of so-and-so, or something very traumatic, actually, because it shakes and shocks you out of that space of perspective that is so tethered to that idea that it really needs to be severed for you to rise above it and see something other than that. And the problem with being tethered to something is that you have a distance, like a dog on a chain, you know, they can only go so far in the yard. And that's not how we want to live, and that's not how we're designed. So the idea of letting go is pretty something constant that if we allow it to be, becomes the new mantra. Like, let it go so that you can flow, right? And everybody here knows in their bodies when you're in that control state, it's a form of resistance, really. And so then things get locked and blocked. And so there can't be anything that flows through you. Just like ideas are constantly flowing through your head. Well, if you write them down, then you can come back to them and use them, per se. If it's a repetitive thought, then it's something that needs addressing. So it's something for you to deal with. And if it's just random, and especially if it's not something that's promoting something good in your life, and you still hold on to that, or you go off on a tangent with it, that can be harmful. And so the idea of letting go is applicable to the mind and our thinking. It's applicable to our emotions, which is really the filter. And if we filter our emotions thoroughly and let that flow out, then we're not holding on to them, and the body's like, oh, thank God, didn't store that in my knee this time. So I feel better. Or my back doesn't hurt because I actually let that go. You know, we had a beautiful night last night for my father's birthday, 75, and we all got together. And I can't tell you how many times during that event that just relaxing and feeling and not attaching to anything or judging anything, my hip would go, and it would just freaking crack open, right? Or like this morning I did this little stretch, and then my left knee, which never has an issue, didn't have an issue. I actually felt the band or the fascia go whoop and open up. And I'm like, wow, that feels great. And so I say those examples because it's so relevant to every person. And every one of us has these, at least you have this happen all the time. And speak to that.
I actually had another thought.
Or speak to whatever you want.
So from a neuropsychology, physiology part in our brain, we have this part of our brain called the default mode network, which speaks to the ego. And that's that repetition, or what Matthew was saying, is patterns that make us go off on a tangent that's not good for us. And in kids, they don't have that area form really to age 4 or 5. And so they use their whole brain. Everything lights up. And so they can see beyond control. There's no, I mean, they want to control because they're 2 or 3, but they see more. They use more of their brain. And then the ego starts to form, and you get into this default mode network that sort of gets you locked into who you are, your experiences, your stories. Everything is tied up in there. And so it's with meditation, and I mean, there's other ways too, but meditation is one way you get out of that. And you light up your whole brain, which allows for less resistance and more flow, and allows you to see who you are beyond just that your experiences and your beliefs. And I just think that's so fascinating, because we're using just such a little part of our brain, right? When we have like this whole big, I mean, our brain takes up 20% of the energy that we put into our body. Like, so food and everything, 20% goes here. Look at how, that's not much compared to like the rest of us. And think about if we use the whole thing, it'd probably be like 50%. That's my takeaway on working on getting out of that default mode network.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So the default mode network, as it applies to your thoughts that are negative, that keep on repeat, or that you actually take personal, and then all of a sudden you take that thought and it branches like a molecule into thousands of other thoughts that are unrelated, that are personal to you, that are now issues that weren't issues before that thought occurred. Can you relate to that? Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of you have heard this analogy, so I'm going to say it because I think it's very valuable. Every one of us has good and has evil in us. So if we say every one of us has a good wolf and a bad wolf that shows up every day to our door, the question is always, which one is going to remain? Well, the answer to which one's going to remain is the one you feed. So your thoughts are like this good and bad wolf. So if the bad thought comes, well, guess what? That's the bad wolf. If the good thought comes, that's the good wolf. So if when the good wolf comes and has a thought in your mind that's positive, I think you can absorb and enjoy it. We don't want to hold on to it any more than we want to hold on to the bad thought. However, when the bad thought comes, we definitely don't want to hold on to it. So if we start holding on to all the good thoughts, it still builds a habitual pattern that makes us want to hold on to all the bad thoughts just by default. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So we don't want either one. We just want to acknowledge. I mean, a big thing, and we've talked about this before, a big thing in the context of our stories and our releases are being acknowledged by somebody. And that means that they need to listen to what we say. And if they listen to what we say, but they're in their head about what they want to say next, then they're not there. And even if consciously that person feels that they're present in that listening mode, if they really aren't, what doesn't line communicates, and all of our brains right now are intellectualizing and processing this conversation or this dialogue, right? However, another conversation is occurring at the same time. And that's the subconscious conversation. And that subconscious body has all kind of stuff in it from all of our life, especially if it hasn't been released. And that's communicating. So if the person in front of you seemingly is listening, however, they're not listening with their full presence, you, as the person attempting to release your trauma or have your process, underneath knows on a deeper level that it's not actually happening. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that repeats over and over. So when you have somebody who's like, oh my God, I gotta hear this freaking story one more time, I'm gonna pull my hair out from this person. Well, but there's a reason that they're telling the story again. Mm-hmm. And so if we can understand that on a much deeper level, being present is the present, right? That's the gift. And so the idea of growing is directly related to awareness. How aware can you truly be if you're not present? You're running on the default mode network that fundamentally is like, I know how to ride the bike, I don't got to think about it when I get on it, I'm just going to do it, right? So we all have those things. We have autopilots for our life in these different categories of function. And so we're doing that when we're at work. We're doing that when we're talking with family. We're doing that when we're doing an exercise or whatever. However, the mind, when it's not really embedded in the action or in the conversation or in the intent of receiving what's being said, the problem is you're not actually growing. Because what's going on, whether it's the exercise or the person that's sharing or whatever, because it's like what that book said about everyone's your master, because everyone's your teacher. Every moment's your teacher. That bird outside you, those chimes are your teacher. Everything's your teacher. There's no coincidence or irony. There's a constant influx of communication that serves us. And our job is only to serve by being passively open to let that energy in, to let that greater spirit work through us, so that we can function in the best way for all involved, right? And if we let go, we let God. Whatever your beliefs are, right? So the cultivation of the mind never stops, which means the letting go can never stop. It's really the essence of what needs to happen, in my opinion, for people as a general statement was what happened a long time ago. And it's very basic. If you didn't need to get up to go do something, you appreciated where you are and what was around you. And the only things you got up for were to use the bathroom, get food, make fire, shelter, or to help somebody with any of the above. Other than that, you were with your people, or you were swimming, or you were, on a hike, or laying down under the stars, or whatever. And so I understand that civilization evolves, and now we have houses because of the weather and different things, and that's all good too. However, as a whole, we're forgetting about the moment to moment, the stops. What do you do? Let me ask you all a question. Everybody drove here, right? Anybody walk? Okay, good. So somebody walks, and she probably had more time to let her mind unwind. That's the most invaluable exercise you can do, is just walk without a dog, without music, without your friend, just walk. Every stop sign you stopped at, what was going on in your head?
I was thinking, oh God, I can't be late. I was like rushing here.
Just the red light, when's it going to turn green? Is it turned green? I got to merge or something. Like, I'm always like...
Anybody else?
Jennifer drove me, so.
You're engrossed with my conversation.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so this is kind of the idea, is that even in these, what we would consider possibly stale moments, like we're just waiting time out, so to speak. Even at the stop signs, even at the stoplights, what are you doing? Where are you? Are you present? Is your mind drifting? There was something really interesting that you and I were talking about the other day about, I think we were talking about it, and it was about where, with the nervous system, when your nervous system is either calm or it's active, and when neither one, if you don't have these stimuluses, you're just kind of in a daydream. Like you're not stimulated, you're just gone. You know what I mean? And I think when I was a kid, I did a lot of daydreaming. I know why I did a lot of daydreaming though, because that's a safe place. It's a place in between places. It's a place where you can use your imagination and forget about things that maybe aren't flowing the best way they could flow, And that's not, a positive or negative towards the way I grew up, because I had a great childhood. It was a space, right? And I think I was in life where life wasn't supported for that type of a mind, which was an open mind that didn't care for any rules, that didn't want to be in school, that didn't want this, didn't want that. I just wanted to be free, right? On the topic of school, the school topic is that this whole life is school. Every moment is school. And in that schoolhouse, those kids are kept in a confined directive as to how to think. And I don't think it's overall very supportive. And I am not one for the system. And people take the kids and put them in school because we have to work. And because we have to work, we can't take care of the kids. Because otherwise the kids might get in trouble or do something or distract us, and then we have this kind of conflict. And so it's set up as a system to support other needs. But then we have to ask, is that need necessary, and how do we solve it? And I think one of the positives of the insanity of what's been going on in this world with the whole COVID, that I'm not going to address the way I want to right now, is that it has allowed families to go back home and to live with each other, for the better or the worse. And in some cases worse, very sadly, for a lot of families, and sometimes for a lot of families, very awesome. And in that context of the bringing the school home, we get to really help see and support each other. And so that's where the growth happens, which is why as an individual, like a lot of people say they're here because they're on a path, they want to grow, they want to be of service, right? Well, so do I. I'm constantly growing too. Like I'm figuring out how to make this work in peace through these processes, because we have sometimes right on the same idea and sometimes different ideas. And, you know, she has a lot of value and helps me in a lot of ways to figure that out. And at the same time, I also know that some things are important to talk about and other people need to hear them, and I want to address it. And so that's something that she and I work together with to provide the best balanced version of this healing space, right? So the idea of being at home with your families, if there's an issue with any one of your family members, fundamentally the goal is to figure out, what am I doing and what's wrong with me? Like, what have I done that causes the problems in the world? Instead of blaming people in the world. Have I not said something at the right time when I knew it was wrong? Have I not honored myself so that I became a good steward of my family and of this earth? Have I allowed things to happen when they could have just been shown or told one thing to help them improve so that that didn't domino down their line? There's a lot to it. With respect to school, what's your thoughts on that with your 30 years experience dealing with people?
Oh, wow. Not everybody fits the system. And I think that just from my personal experience, it's important for schools to help the students do critical thinking, make their own decisions. I think that schools should put out a good bit of different ideas and let the person figure it out.
You know, there's some people out there where school actually is beneficial to have structure. However, on the whole, I think that probably there's a large percentage of people that they're trying to force feed into a system that don't belong in the system. So all the free thinkers of the world are the ones that have really supported and helped change and help all of us grow. And so if that group is not nurtured, then we're all kind of caught in the same bottleneck, which is the exact point and place that we are in history right now on this planet, not just in this country. And that's the point of talking about the school, which I think is necessary for people to understand. There's a lot of people that subscribe to choosing what you're interested in, what you like, and going deep down that rabbit hole so it serves a purpose, versus learning a generic group of things that at the end of your education don't really serve any purpose outside of learning the language and some math skills, understanding some science and some anatomy, possibly and hopefully. And so I think there just needs to be a redo and a remodel on all of those things. So letting go of an old system, this is where I was going to, the point of going to this. The medical system's broken, the school system's broken, the education system's broken. There's a lot of broken systems in this country that the rest of the world looks to, and there's a lot of other countries where their systems are superior and much more evolved and advanced that we could learn from. And there are, of course, some things here in this country that other systems and other countries can benefit from evolving to as well. And so I think this opening of the world being the school, and every culture being the school, and every culture offering value, there's no way to paint the brushstroke across every culture and expect everyone to be the same. That's insane. However, I do think that there's a great value in going to every culture and looking into that culture and being like, listen, this is amazing and we would love for you to expose and share this with the rest of us. And then there's some stuff in that culture that the rest of the world probably look at and go, absolutely not. You've been doing this for centuries. It's wrong. This is not how we treat people. You need to really think about reforming that. And so there's two sides of the same coin always, which is why there's good and evil in all of us. It's just which one do you want to bring forward and foster? And so the system of education is a system of self. And the system of self is the opening to allow. And the allowing is to receive and download information that's far superior because nobody actually creates anything. We just find it. And we take it and we mix it up and we make it look different. But it's all the same essence. And that's what we are. We are all have the same essence in us. And it's to get that to feel free and relevant, we have to allow. And that means we have to let go of all the agendas, of all the ideas, of all the things we do and don't want to hear, of all of the everything. And I'm not saying that's easy. I'm saying we have to be aware of it. And that's the growth. Growth comes from awareness. You can only be aware if you let go so that the blocks go away, the flow happens, and in the flow, you get more awareness. And then you just become this observer. And in this observation, you become present. And in that presence, you are then downloaded all the gifts. And that's actually the basic order of reception into this beautiful bliss that it can be. So let's meditate on that. So let's all just open. You can stay cross-legged if you're cross-legged. And just open your arms and allow yourself to relax into your seat. As always, in any meditation, as a very basic education for your awareness, wherever you are posturally, feel free to move if you need to. However, notice when you want to move or if you move. And this is a self-education on building the awareness. Okay, so let's close the eyes and take a great listen to these chimes outside, because there's a conversation happening right now. And I want you to deduct what it is that you're receiving as far as that message is concerned. So I want you to feel the energy around the room and in your body and around your body right now. I want you to notice if there was anything that during the beautiful chimes and the silence that you weren't able to let go of, or were you actually able to just be present to experience the energy transference from that noise or that melody or that beauty into your mind. You see, the sirens are going out there now, yes? And the chimes. That's the good and the bad wolf at the same time. It's not that with each sound of the chime, you're wanting it to never end or hold on to it. You're allowing it to penetrate your field, your energy field, your spirit, your body. When the waterfall flows, it doesn't make a determination as to what is put in the water that it should hold on to or let go of. It simply moves. And so should these sirens be allowed to enter into your system the same way, and although they may feel different in their energy frequency, if they're allowed to be present and accepted, then couldn't you very easily allow that to absorb and be released just as quickly as the chimes? The reason that it's so important is because with the sirens, should there be any resistance, you would close yourself off from receiving everything that the chimes would offer when it comes. That way you can remain happy regardless of what happens. Those chimes normally don't chime on this side of the building. We have chimes on 3 sides. For the last 3 weeks, those have not played. I'm going to ask you one question to think about in the silence. What is the school that you have enrolled in? Do you feel your house caving in right now? What are all those beliefs that you've taken on that are part of your school, your personal temple, aka school? What are the things that you've been told to do from young that are a part of your school? In other words, what are the limitations of your school? Wouldn't it be wonderful to live in the school of chimes, in the school of stillness, in a school that taught constant awareness? What it is that you are doing constantly as a regularity for your mind, no matter what it is. We listen to podcasts, we read books, we talk with friends, and how much of that is reinforcing the already existing belief systems or ideas that don't support your personal freedom. versus what you're doing to create it. So within the context of that experience with the meditation, with chimes, with your energy, with what you were doing, if you have something to share as far as value, what you got out of it, please share.
I felt the chimes as like divine support, and I felt that it was telling me I was exactly where I need to be, and everything is coming to my life exactly as it should. And because of that, I don't need to worry, I don't need to stress, I don't need to judge myself or expect anything. I just felt really supported, and I just felt a lot of energy, either souls or I don't know, but
It's a free-for-all.
It just felt very peaceful and calming to me, the chimes.
Did anybody have any issues with letting go of anything during that?
Yeah, I did. It was just like a thought that stuck in my head, and I couldn't let it. Basically, like, this is kind of a long story. Stick with me. The other day, I was listening to some music, and I was just like overwhelmed with this music. Like, oh my God, this is so big, and this is joy, and this is like. And then it dawned on me. I was like, you can't enjoy any art unless you're totally like aware of it, like mindful of the picture and the strokes, and even like with food, of the taste or the textures. Like, you're not totally like getting the whole entire thing. Like, you have to be there, right? And so, and I was thinking about the chimes, and I was just like, oh, this is just like I thought yesterday. It's like I'm listening to the chimes, and like they're really pretty, and like I never noticed chimes, and just kind of like this, letting go of that, like, okay, just listen to the chimes. It's still kind of training my brain to like, shh, it's okay. You can think about it later.
That's awesome.
And for me, I was trying to control the chimes. It was a beautiful song, like heaven song, I don't know. But whenever it stopped, I was like, now what? Now what? Now what? Where's the wind? And then I was like, but it's a process, and it's helping me a lot. Whenever those kind of thoughts comes in, I'm like, why do I'm trying to question and acknowledge the thoughts, and then the thought. And then I was able to kind of, okay, let it go, and it's okay. And then I heard to the clock, to the, I think it was an airplane, to the cars, like I was trying to go, and everything made part of the same song, the same music. And then I was able to kind of let it go. Right? But at the beginning, I was trying to control it. But I'm sorry. When I heard one thing that you said, when I heard the sirens, it was like I kind of blocked myself. It's connected to, I don't know, bad news, bad whatever. And then you brought that up. I was like, okay, I felt that it changed my whole experience with the chimes. It kind of.
So I'm going to segue here because this is so important. And I think all of us have the same fear subconsciously, is of death, of loss. And the idea of the chime stopping is a representation of that. Now what? What do I do now, right? And so that goes hand in hand with being the empty vessel. That, if I can be that servant, isn't that it? Don't we all arrive at the place that there only is service to do? And if we can allow that to come through us truly and surrender to it, it's the same analogy of the chime stop. What do? We don't want to die. I don't want to lose this person, which is why death is so traumatic for the living, not the dead. And that's why people who are older hold on as long as possible for everyone in the family to find peace, to know that they're going to be okay before they leave, because they know what they're leaving is going to be hard for them, not for the people dying. And it's that deep. And it's that simple at the same time. And so our job, we've all heard the analogy, everybody dies, but not everybody lives. Case in point. And so I think this constant letting go is really the new meditation or the new mantra if you really want to grow yourself infinitely, because when we die, It's not over. Like, it's not like your body goes away if you burn it or bury it or whatever. However, you're not done. Recycling is bullshit on this planet. They just need to stop making plastic and things that don't biodegrade because it's all in the ocean and there's other issues. So when people say recycle at this point in my life, I'm like, it's a joke. However, we need to understand that we are recycled as energy, as infinite, as connected to source. And that understanding can transpose the idea of death being so fearful. Still very hard for the mind to conceptualize and or deal with. However, principally there. Everything around us that exists is just an extension of us. We are of this earth. We are an extension of this planet. We're an extension of this earth. And every one of you in this room, not including myself, are the mothers of this earth, the life givers of this earth, of this planet. And you're constantly worrying about things because you know it's not right and you can't relax into yourself, truly. Am I wrong? And everybody out there needs to get this. And all the leaders and all the males. And we gotta let it go that it's not been right. And we gotta let it go that systems are not designed for our benefit. Although they could be and will be, because we're about to move into a real beautiful time in life that will overcome all this foolishness that we've all been living for God knows how long. So for us in the meantime, the idea of letting go is really about letting go of the idea of dying. So we'll do one more short meditation to drive that home. Okay? So let's everybody go back into the posture that's comfortable for you. Relax, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Now, independent of the divine and beautiful chimes, the meditation that we're going to close with is I want you to imagine that you're already dead, that it's already happened. You're not here, you've already passed away. Isn't you're allowing yourself to die, letting go, for those of you that are still trying to live right now, in this meditation context only. You see, this death simulation is the bearing of the ego so that the soul can be free. If you want the ultimate stillness meditation, this is it. Feel it in your gut, although you're dead. And allow yourself to smile, inside and out. And breathe life back into your body. But leave your ego where it was when you finished. And let the divinity of the chimes awaken you into the room. See, because the chimes are external. Dying never felt so good. And I know who I'm coming back next lifetime with. Got a lot of- So to drive the depth of awareness, first meditation, the chimes were external. That meditation was completely and entirely, if you allowed it to be, internal. That last meditation serves so many profound purposes. Truly. So this is the point. When we're doing what we're doing, and we don't understand what we're doing, and we're not connected and present and fully aware, we can't grab a fraction of the value. That meditation destroys the ego, which never dies. Like we never die. That's the catch-22 in this lifetime. The ego is there to protect us, so it's not going to disappear. However, it puts it out of first seat as far as drivers are concerned in your vehicle. And it feels very nice. And from this space of stillness, the internal world, I don't know if you felt that differently or not. It's completely there. Some of you are going to feel more things from that experience that you didn't feel before, whether it's in physical or otherwise. And then some of you are going to feel more things on the other side of that experience that aren't physical, but they're just pure awarenesses, which is why I know who I'm coming back with in this next life. So if anybody wants to share anything about their experience, feel free, but don't feel like you have to.
Immediately I felt cold. And I felt peaceful, calm, no fear. I think I've learned that from you all, and I appreciate that. I did have a thought that I needed to go see my mom and thank her, but then I just tried to focus on just being peaceful and calm. That was a process for me.
Thank you, Marsha.
I felt a relief. I felt a relief, and then I fell asleep. I started nodding off. So that was what happened to me. I felt relief, and then I had one other thought of a farm. And then I was out. I slept most of it. I was in.
Okay. I felt energized, like new, kind of like I was being reborn. Cool. I was brought to a hospital room. I was literally just reborn. Right when I closed my eyes.
I kind of, it's something kind of similar, but immediately kind of felt rest. And I don't have a big fear of dying, because you live, you die. It's part of the cycle, and not that I'm aware of. I'm sure I do have other aspects of I'm fear of dying, but I just kept seeing kind of flowers, or being regenerated as flowers, or in the ground. And so that was pretty common. I was oh, cool. Which I don't know, maybe that's ego, that I don't go away and I just keep coming.
No, I think that we're reflected in nature, right? Our true nature is reflected in nature as an extension of that. Aside from it's beautiful. It's all beautiful.
I floated up above. So I have a friend in India who's a bit of somewhat of a guide. And so we chatted recently, and I was discussing some of the issues that I had, and he said, think of yourself as your soul, not as Pam. And so when I died, I floated up above and did that observation and felt the soul separation from the body, and looking at the body, and came back into it thinking that I need to get my house in order and my body in order to fulfill the soul's mission. Maybe we should talk about training. And nutrition. I got you.
We're all here for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's that.
To me, I was super interesting because it changed the perception of time, space, and matter.
Yeah.
It was like it did not exist at all. The time just stopped. It was really something else.
I was totally there too. Yeah.
A brief summary, but I had the experience of like looking back on my life and like this life, and I think I'm like really hard on myself. And when I looked back on my life, it was like, oh, like it was actually like really beautiful and filled with a lot of love. And I just had this like very clear message that like it's been really beautiful until now, and it's been a good life, and that just like really touched me very deeply.
Thank everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I didn't do anything. I was channeled. Look, we have to live in this 3D world, even though there is no time, essence of time, and the access to all of our lifetimes and everything we've been. There's a lot to comprehend, and that spirit world it's real. There's a lot of lost souls that still need direction to go home. That's a whole other layer of life that's not really talked about. You know, it is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.